Empire is invading our home. Today, I die for my people.
Epic battles.
Kill them all!
Deadly duels. Tragedy. Morality.
I'm trying to save our people by teaching them to fear us.
Hot tubs. Even more tragedy.
They were children!
More awesome. Ghost of Tsushima.
Strike them down, Lord! Keep swinging, Hero.
Banger. Absolute banger. I mean, you could play a flute to a deer. Banger. There seems to be something of a surge in interest in samurai stories at the moment, with the success of shows such as Shogun and Blue-Eyed Samurai over in the TV world. It makes sense that video games would polish up the old katana and follow suit, as Assassin's Creed Shadows is still limping towards its release date in November, hobbled by accusations of historical revisionism, cultural insensitivity, and straight-up plagiarism. And once again, Ubisoft seem to be determined to alienate their customers and upset, well, pretty much everyone. The appetite for a satisfying samurai experience remains unslaked. Or does it? Well, cometh the hour and cometh the game. Because Sucker Punch have not long released a director's cut of their epic samurai classic, Ghost of Tsushima, to fill that gap and tickle your samurai pickle. And if you've not played it, it's the perfect time to check it out. Every now and then, a game comes along that can really showcase what video games can do as a storytelling medium, and this is definitely one of those. It's chock full of well-drawn, flawed, human characters making hard choices in difficult situations where the right choice isn't always that obvious. The game takes place on the island of Tsushima, slap bang in the middle of the Mongol invasion of Japan. The island is under attack, and you play as Jin Sakai, a talented yet naive young samurai lord who, along with his fellow warriors, is tasked to defend it. All under the stoic leadership of Jin's uncle, Lord Shimura. After the samurai take a fairly comprehensive spanking, an outnumbered and under-resourced Jin quickly realizes that the rigid and honorable traditions of samurai warfare are gonna have to go out the window if Tsushima stands a chance of survival.
Samurai pride themselves on their honor code, but it also makes them rigid, predictable, easy to break.
As the only defense against such insurmountable odds is to weaponize chaos, deception, and fear to become unpredictable and outthink, unbalance, and terrify his opponents into submission using whatever weapons he can, even those of his enemies.
A weapon of the enemy, not samurai.
So with the help and guidance of a plucky but compassionate thief, Yuna, Jin embarks on a creative and increasingly brutal campaign of guerrilla warfare and subterfuge against the invaders, becoming a sort of samurai Batman known as a Ghost.
Ghost has no limits. This makes him dangerous.
And Jin is pitted against a pretty solid villain, the Khan. Who's not so much a brutal sadist bent on mayhem and destruction, but more a detached, sociopathic pragmatist, pulling on whatever political, social, or military levers further his conquest. But this is not really the story of Jin versus the Khan. The Mongol invasion really just serves as a backdrop for the ethical push and pull between Jin and his uncle, Lord Shimura, who is horrified by the Ghost and his methods.
Run, cowards! Jin! Not like that. Never like that. It's all they understand.
Shimura stands for tradition, honor, respect, and justice. He clings to order in all things, even war, and would rather see his people die than veer from the spirit and cultural identity of the samurai.
I won't make them your slaves.
Jin, however, prioritizes the survival of his people over his own honor, even if he damns himself to persecution and exile in order to save them.
I sacrificed everything for my people. And I would do it again.
Yet the more he strays from the samurai code and the lines between Jin and the ghost begin to blur, the more callous and vengeful he becomes, not just defeating his enemies, but reveling in their suffering.
I trained you to fight with honor. Honor died on the beach. The Khan deserves to suffer.
Now, neither approach is without consequence, and while Lord Shimura's defenses continue to crumble as he stumbles over the limitations of his own honor, Jin becomes embattled in a fight not just for the island, but for his very soul.
The Mongols have changed you, young master.
The world has changed.
It's this constant tension between honor versus survival, tradition versus modernity that forms the backbone of the narrative of Ghost of Tsushima. The game is constantly asking you, what would you sacrifice to survive and save your people? Your identity? Your soul? If so, is that really survival at all? What are the consequences of doing that? What are the consequences of not doing that? What is the function of tradition and honor in the face of certain death? It's a pretty rich tapestry woven together by a studio that's clearly passionate about old school storytelling and accumulates in a genuinely heartbreaking conclusion that stuck with me for quite some time.
You are my son.
Storytelling really is the name of the game here. And one thing that struck me when I played this was just how story-dense the island of Tsushima is. In addition to the main quests, each side character has their own tale, which serves as a kind of episodic miniseries that unfolds alongside the central narrative, each of which has a strong character arc all of its own. For example, we get the tale of Ishikawa, the lonely and pretty unlikable archery sensei whose longing for fatherhood and legacy blinds him to the psychopathy of a student he wishes to adopt as family, with pretty deadly consequences.
She attacked me. She killed my wife and the others.
Even the little mini-quests you encounter scattered around the island are varied and well thought out. So often in open-world games of this sort, they can kind of feel like fetch-questy donkey work, but here they generally have an emotional core and a moral component that's food for thought. So you might meet a father who struggles to live with the guilt of an impossible choice.
The Mongols found out my sons burned one of their supply wagons. They forced me to choose which son they'd kill as punishment.
There's fantastical tales of folklore told by musicians around campfires, stories of demon warriors and supernatural armor, all warning of the corrupting dangers of violence, power, and hubris. And there's a sort of ripple of flawed humanity and tragedy that runs through the whole thing that offsets the acts of courage and heroism quite nicely. And of course, it all comes from really good stock, as the game unapologetically draws inspiration for the movies of visionary Japanese director Akira Kurosawa, to the extent where you can actually play it in Kurosawa mode, where the game is presented in iconic black and white widescreen with Japanese dialogue and subtitles. And if you're a fan of old school Japanese cinema, it's every bit as awesome as it sounds. However, I would recommend at least one playthrough in full color, because this is a good looking game. The island of Tsushima has a relentless cinematic beauty that ranges from dreamlike and tranquil to ominous and dramatic. Cherry blossoms fall from trees, woods and forests glow with pinks and oranges, storm clouds gather moodily over the cliff tops and craggy mountain vistas. Dramatic sequences are underscored with pouring rain and thunder, and thoughtful moments are reflected with soft sunset hues. It's really lovely stuff, and the weather and environment is almost a character in itself, to the point where the wind will even help usher you to your objective if you need guidance or direction. This is a really nifty little mechanic that gets you to where you need to go to without breaking the immersion or littering the natural landscape with ugly icons and flashing objective markers. And the game is obviously very aware of how pretty it looks and invites you to spend time enjoying the environment through a series of kind of meditative activities that provide a little calm between the battles and the bloodshed. You can skinny dip and reflect in natural hot springs.
Saved from the battlefield by a thief.
You can sit and write a haiku inspired by the natural beauty around you.
White buds, shimmering, exposed.
You can follow a friendly fox to a shrine and honor the gods and give him a stroke on his fluffy little head. All of these things offer a short and welcome change of pace that showcases the natural beauty of Tsushima, but also adds a little extra insight into the more contemplative and philosophical side of Jin's character. No samurai game would be complete without a comprehensive combat system, and good news, there is one. The philosophical division between the way of the samurai and the way of the ghost present in the main story is also reflected in the gameplay, as you're essentially offered two approaches to combat. The stealthy way of the ghost involves all the usual familiar stealth gameplay shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Knifing enemies from behind, throwing firecrackers for distraction, smoke and powder bombs, sniping from afar with a bow and arrow. If I had any criticism of the game, it would probably be here. The stealth gameplay is fine. It's fine. My problem with it is that Jin doesn't always feel particularly stealthy. He's not that smooth and agile in a way that really sells the stealth sections. If anything, he feels kind of clunky. I mean, particularly when he's leaping around conspicuously with a full set of samurai armor and antlers on his head. Personally, I found the ghost approach is really the most fun when used as a fight opener, where you can sort of Batman your way into a group of enemies with a smoke bomb, dispatch a bunch of them before they know what's happening, and then emerge from the smoke and chaos like a vengeful sword-wielding spirit of justice. If anything, stealth might be more desirable earlier in the game when you haven't got your swordsmanship fully sharpened, but as soon as you get your chop and chops up, you're just going to want to stroll in like an absolute boss and challenge a whole enemy camp to a fight to the death, because where this game really shines is in the swordplay. The sword combat works like this. You've got your standard light and heavy attacks that you can string together in a series of fluid and healthy combos. You can block, you can roll, or sidestep your way out of harm's way, and a well-timed tap of the block or dodge button will grant you a perfect parry or a perfect dodge, which opens up your assailant to counterattack. The thing that adds a little extra depth to this system is the use of stances, and there are 4 main ones that you're going to want to switch between on the fly. Each stance has its own moveset and special move, and offers the best defense against a specific enemy type. You've got the stone stance that's best used against sword-wielding enemies. The water stance against shields. The wind stance for long weapons. And my personal favorite, the moon stance for the big lads. It's a really fun system and adds a tactical problem-solving component to fights with multiple opponents. and helps to keep encounters fresh. If you manage to dish out enough badassery without getting hit, your ghost meter will fill up. And when it's full, you get to enter the ghost stance, which will grant you temporary invulnerability and one-shot kills to whoever gets in your way, as well as terrifying your adversaries into a panic. You can also formally challenge your foes into a Western-style standoff.
Come here and fight!
Here you can take out multiple enemies at once if you time it right, but draw too soon or too late, and you'll know about it. There's also dramatic one-on-one duels where Jin has to face off against another expert swordsman. These often serve as boss battles in the main campaign, but there are additional bouts to be discovered around the map. They can be pretty challenging and are all presented in the classic dramatic Kurosawa style.
Ryuzo's stories don't do you justice. They never did.
When it comes to your gear, the Ghost is pretty customizable. There's different types of armor that you'll pick up along the way, each offering their own buffs and skill enhancements. And you can change how they look as you upgrade them and change the colors with various dyes that you can buy from merchants. So you can really craft how you think the Ghost should look, from outrageously bright and gaudy to dark, brooding, and Batman-y. Although you keep the same weapons throughout the game, each can be fortified and charms can be added to add additional buffs too.
Your arrows will strike like deadly falcons.
It's also worth mentioning that included in the director's cut is the IKI Island Expansion DLC that offers you a whole new adventure on a new map that will take you a fair few hours to get through, and Sucker Punch are smart enough to realize that by the time you've got to play an IKI, you've probably maxed out all the Ghost skills and weaponry, so they do their best to up the challenge accordingly. New combat mechanics are introduced to make enemies formidable and unpredictable on the battlefield. We get some additional moves through the monkey armor, some horse combat options, yet more breathtaking scenery. Oh, and cats. We get cats. I mean, look at that little dude. Are we gonna get that in Assassin's Creed Shadows? We also get a nice little story that further highlights the tension between the way of the samurai elites and those lower down on the feudal system who may see them as arrogant and tyrannical.
Who are you? Answer me.
You're used to talking that way to people on Tsushima, but not here, samurai.
The story also further fleshes out Jin's character as he is forced to come to terms with the sins of his father and his own failure to save him.
Father? You let him kill me. I wanted to save you.
The revelations we learn about Jin's upbringing help to add further pathos and tragedy to the story of the main game. The sad tale of the Ghost, a sensitive and poetic young boy forged into a weapon of war by a widowed father and a warrior uncle.
No. I will never be like you.
So The Ghost of Tsushima, what do you think? Have you played it? Do you want to play it? Let me know in the comments below. But if you're looking for a beautifully cinematic, story-driven open world with some really fun swordplay and a healthy dollop of ethics and philosophy on the side, then I'd highly recommend it. And if you're a fan of Kurosawa movies, it's kind of a must-play. If you're interested in more Ghost of Tsushima content, then my full playthrough live streams are still available now on the live section of my channel. And I've also uploaded a bunch of gameplay vids to check out if you'd like to see more of that without me talking nonsense over the top. All of which are linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, folks, and if you've enjoyed the video, please consider doing the like and subscribe thing, as it really helps grow the channel and gives me the will to keep on making these things.
Hey, you don't quit on me! No, you keep going! You keep going! No, run!
So take care of yourselves, folks, and I'll see you in the streams.